Okay, welcome back. So in this video I just want to take you through the kind of inner workings of this node group. So in order to do that I have a slightly different scene here. I'm just going to ungroup this node, and that way we can actually look at the entire node tree. Now while I just move these principal shader and material output nodes to the side, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that I have quite a lot of nodes at the front here and quite a lot of nodes outside the actual frames. I don't want you to pay too much attention to those just now. I'm going to explain what those do a little bit later on. What I really want to do here is just take you through a few of these different frames, just to show you that when you break this down, it really just comes down to textures, mix nodes, color ramps, maybe the odd brightness contrast node or hue saturation value node. It's actually pretty simple. So let's turn this on to rendered mode, and we'll go through a couple of these different frames so you can kind of see how I go about building up my texture. You can also see that I have the reference image here, so this is the kind of pattern that I'm trying to go for and try to achieve over here. And when you actually look at this, when you look at it from a distance, you can clearly see that there's pretty much two main layers to this. There's the kind of cloudy pink and kind of light pink background, and there's the grey kind of noise over the top. Now you could probably easily make a fairly decent texture using maybe half a dozen different layers, some cloud, some noisy kind of cloudy layers for the background, maybe some Musgrave with some noise, a little bit of contrast for the foreground, mix them all together and create a pretty good texture. I like to add as much richness into my textures as possible, so I'm really looking past these kind of primary shapes into the secondary shapes. So when I look a little bit closer, I see that the grey isn't just solid shapes. We've got areas of grey, we've got these kind of darker grey flecks all over the place that are on top of the pink, they're even on top of the actual grey parts. And again, if we look at the pink areas, we have these patches of kind of quite saturated, kind of darker pink areas and these lighter areas. We've even got areas where if we look very close up, and this isn't even the highest resolution image, you can see that even within the pink we have a lot of different values. We have noise, we have scrapes and scratches, dirt, rust. There's even areas of rust in here. You can see there's got a scrape here, things like that. They're all things that you can add into your textures to give them many more layers of richness, and they really help sell your textures. Although I use this as a basis for creating this texture, what I always had in my mind was granite worktops, highly polished. It was only kind of as an afterthought that I decided to start trying to figure out a way to get a kind of more diffuse version, a more rough version, something like pulling granite straight out of the ground and how that would look. So that's maybe not as developed as the diffuse map is when it comes to the roughness and the displacement, but I'm very happy with the diffuse part of it, and it's got a lot of built-in control as well for a lot of different variations. So let's just look through a few of these nodes. So as I said, it's mostly things like cloud nodes or noise nodes, building them up and mixing them together, adding in color ramps. In this case, this color ramp is added in for some color, obviously, for this kind of pinkish color in the background. And then again, I'm always adding in more levels and trying to bring in more variation, bringing in some dark patches here on this one, and then with this one I'm bringing in lighter areas to break up the previously created levels. And then I'm looking to create that kind of secondary and even tertiary levels in each of these layers. So I'm bringing in things like these little light chips, so each of these little black areas are going to end up being little white dots that even have a little bit of noise texture on them as well. So essentially when this all gets brought together, we get this quite rich background, and of course we're going to layer the grey on top of that. So the way I did this was, essentially I have this pink background, this cloudy pink background with as much detail as I could, I think at this point as much detail as I could be bothered doing, and then essentially I'm grabbing some more grey, some more noise textures, tweaking the colours. This is a grey with almost like a slight bit of green in it, because it seemed to look a little bit better. And then obviously I'm bringing in this colour. And the way I figured this out was I would have the grey colour with a little bit more noise. And then I would create a mask that will control what's going to be grey and what's going to be pink. That's essentially what I've done here. So you can see that in this case, this is actually the final mask that I created that controls what's pink and what's grey. This is the final grey colour, and of course you've already seen the final pink colour. I then go in and add in some additional things on top of that were kind of an afterthought, some additional grey colours and some additional grey chips as well, just layered in on top. The main part of this is really this masking system. The masking system is pretty complex. I do have these frames here titled UV distortion. I'm going to cut these just now because I don't want you to think too much about the UV distortion at this point. I'm going to show you how that's done in the next video. But these masks are pretty much just built up. This is the final mask from this particular frame. These masks are pretty much just built up from different Musgrave textures layered on top of each other, darkening, subtracting, multiplying and things like that. Get these pretty complex black and white images. That's pretty much what I'm left with there, and then again that's layered on top, adding in some of these additional grey kind of values here. Again, mostly noise, colour ramps, things like that. Again, I've got some more grey chips, so I've got these kind of, again, layered on top. And this is pretty much what comes out, and that's all completed. This is basically the original kind of diffuse version of this. So you can see I've got all the pink areas, I've got all these different grey areas, I've got these little dots and things like that, and that's pretty much what the resulting texture is. You can see if I turn that there, zoom out, this is what we've got. So from a distance it looks really rich, it's got a lot of detail. When you see it up close you can kind of start to point out all the different layers. From here it works pretty well. The scale is slightly off, it's probably a little bit too high. Obviously in the node group itself I set some of the defaults to fix the scale. You can actually see that I have scale settings here, so I can go in and actually just pretty much tweak every scale in the entire node tree just with this one value node. And I think the default for that is 1, but I think I decided to kind of keep it about 1.5 in the node group. I'm not quite sure if I remember that correctly. So that's pretty much the way I built this all up. I do want to go into a little bit of detail about the UV distortion and also about some of these math nodes that I've created at the front of this node tree. So what I'll do is I'll actually just do that in another video, so you stay tuned. This will be in a playlist and the next video should just pop up.